Mr. Lavine, you may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen, we're winding down, as I'm sure you're happy to hear. As you may tell, I like closing argument to include two things. Number one, the facts. Obviously, if we're not arguing the facts to you, you have a right to say, well, this guy's full of you-know-what. That's not what happened. That's not what's testified to. All we have is our credibility. If we mistake the facts, that's a problem. But the other thing is, assuming the facts are there, you want to know how I feel the facts apply to the law in your decision. And again, all I have is my credibility. I tell you something, well, this means this and this means this, and it's way out of line, then you have a right to go back there and say, yeah, I think Mr. Lavine just, I know it's his job to represent his client, but that didn't happen, and that, everything I am telling you, because I believe it's what the evidence shows, and why I believe that your verdict should be not guilty in this case. Not guilty. Not proven. So let's go on with that. One thing that I wanted to say before we go back to the slides, like I said, I always wondered, they had these 60 hours of plus recordings of Mr. Baker and Ms. Sementilli in the jail cell, when either they knew they were being recorded or didn't know or whatever. Now, they ended in June of 2018. 1 year is when she broke it off. There were no more three-way calls, no more kites, no more meetings, no more talking, no more nothing. She had it with him. Wish it had taken less than a year, but it took a year to realize that this guy was full of shit. And he's tying her to his defense, wanting her to give him information that he couldn't get from his attorney, and then saying, this is what we got to do about this, this is what we got to do about this, and weaving facts that did occur into a defense for Mr. Baker. And one of the things, I don't know if it would be up there or not, that is clear is when he said, if I have to, I'll get up there and lie. And what he said right after that was, lie that I did it, or that I didn't do it. I have to get up there and lie. I'll lie that I did it, even though I didn't. So it wasn't like he was lying for her. He was lying to get up there to say that he did it, and she didn't. The other thing that always bothered me and still does is they were talking in the car. Remember? Somebody told. Remember that? Why didn't she say, oh my God, Austin told. Oh my God, they must have caught Austin and he told on us. Why aren't any of those conversations about Austin? Hey, do you think they'll get Austin? Have you talked to Austin? What happened to Austin? She didn't know anything about Austin, this so-called conspiracy where she's telling Baker that she wants this done and Baker's then relaying it to Austin. We already went through that. There's no corroboration. There's no evidence of her involvement with Austin other than Austin saying it. And you don't even hear Austin saying it to her. But why in 60 hours, if she conspired to kill her husband, they say, with Christopher Austin, do you not hear her say his name once? Because she was not involved. And how the hell would she know that Austin was involved if she wasn't involved until he was arrested 8 years later? You think about that, if you would. All right, let's go on with the slides. He said we talk about the faux restaurant. Fabio picked a faux restaurant, initiated the first text to Monica, and they claimed that Monica deleted the faux message from Fabio to hide this setup for him to be killed. That is just completely false. That message is not deleted in the records. Monica cleared all of her web history, like you do sometimes when you're searching for restaurants or whatever, you'll clear it. But they said that's not important. Yeah, she was sending him the faux that night. He wanted to make sure where it was. No one's doubting that. That occurred. The question is, was it a conspiracy between them to kill Fabio? So she clears her web history, not just selectively deleting special web history relating to faux. We'll get to the proof of that. And they arrive, Monica and Fabio even begin communicating about faux hours. That is, Baker and Austin arrive hours before Monica and Fabio allegedly even begin communicating about faux. Now, they communicated about it, but not about having him killed, because if it was a conspiracy, all she has to do is call Baker and say, he's leaving the house now, get over there. Baker lives in the neighborhood. What is he, 5 minutes away? Call 5 minutes before he leaves. He's just going to the garage. Why would they be there hours before he even goes to pick up the food, which I think was at 6 or something? They got there at 3. Austin says it happened at 9. This is not complicated. This is Monica telling Baker, like she does every day, here's what we're doing tonight. We're going to have food out. Fabio's going to pick it up. There's conversations about faux, Google, whatever. And he does. And Baker gets there at 3 so he doesn't miss him. But she doesn't set it up for him to be killed. Because all she has to do, again, is at 5:36, when we know Fabio shows up, is send a message, Fabio's leaving the house. It can happen. Never happens. They're there for 3 hours waiting around. Let's go on. And here's where the exhibit shows. The prosecution told you, and you have a right to hold them to the standard that you'd hold any witness. They shouldn't be presenting you evidence that's not true. It shows the texts are not deleted. That X means that these texts were not deleted. You see, phone near me, Google search. That was supposed to have been a text that Monica deleted. These text messages, if you can see there in the web, it was not, well, the web history was deleted. I got a little backwards, I'm sorry. The web history was deleted, but none of the other texts were deleted. Go near me. She doesn't delete. Let's go to the next slide. She doesn't delete. They use it. First of all, she never deletes the messages involving faux. Let me get that straight. The messages that are supposed to be sent involving faux to Baker and so forth are never deleted. The only thing that's deleted is the web history. So let's get that straight. I think I mixed it up a little bit. They're trying to say because she knew he was going to be killed that night, that Monica deleted them intentionally. The prosecution says Monica deleted her text message on January 22nd, 2017 about faux. That just isn't true. The records show those messages were not deleted. They're trying to say that she specifically deleted the web history for specific crimes, specific entries on January 22nd, 2017. Again, that isn't true. She cleared all of the web history before June 2017, before even the murder took place, just the same as you would do when you cleared. And regardless of what Austin says about when he and Baker went to faux, the records show the prosecution's own expert, Cy Ray, tells us that they got there in the area of 3:30 in the afternoon. The phone is pinging in that area all that time, and his phone stays in that area till past 6 p.m. for over 2.5 hours. So why is Baker there for 2.5 hours if Monica's directing it? If Monica was actually directing the murder, she would have messaged Baker, I'm sending Fabio there. And that's why he gets there 2 hours before. Take a look at the records. The records show that those messages were not deleted. The messages that the prosecution says that were. You can see on the left side there's our X's, which mark where something has been deleted. See those X's? And it shows the web history deleted, which we talked about. All of her history, but look at the instant messages at the top there. See those in the square? I got it right. There's no X marked to those. If there's no X, then it shows those messages were not deleted. Completely and act the opposite of what the prosecution is telling you. Throughout this case, they're trying to tell you that Monica intentionally deleted messages that she knew would be incriminating. Those were not deleted. The reason they were not deleted is because in her mind they were not incriminating. They were just indicating messages involving Fabio going to the foe to pick up the food. If it was to go to kill him, they would have been deleted. The prosecution told you they were deleted, but the expert said they were not deleted. Let's go on. What else did the prosecution do that we believe can be shown to have been inaccurate? They used an inaccurate record to try to prove that Monica used this lifestyle lounge application to send Baker the faux location where Fabio was going to be. Remember that? The so-called faux location was sent to show where Fabio was going to be. So we called the defense expert, Neil Broom, who testified that that record was completely wrong. Completely wrong. That lifestyle lounge, which they made a big deal about, which is kind of a swinging lounge, was used to communicate that location to Fabio, where Fabio was going to be, and send that to Baker, and that's completely false. And the important thing is the last entry there. The prosecution could have put back on a prosecution data expert to say that the record was accurate, but they didn't, because it was not. So you have incorrect versus correct, and I don't expect you to weed through all that, except to know that the prosecution had presented you a fact that they thought was incriminating to Monica, and it was not. All right, let's move on. Now we get to January 23rd, the date of the murder. The date when they claimed there was this small window, remember, that they had to fit in this murder to make it successful and so that it wouldn't be discovered before it had concluded. A small window. It didn't have to be a small window. As you'll see, Monica controlled all the time when people arrived and left, except Fabio, and Fabio was home. Everybody knew that, and we knew that from the testimony of everyone, from Fabio's own testimony through the messages. Now, I still don't have the answer for the colonoscopy, neither do the people. Why he made that up, and he made up that it went well and so forth. But all that's relevant about that are the times when the calls are made by Wella to him. So let's start out with January 23rd. And what we are saying is throughout these timeline, right from the beginning to the end, that it shows Monica did not assist the murder. Monica's let's go back to the previous one. Go to the top. Monica sends a Viber message to Baker on 3:36, and that's when Baker leaves the Target parking lot. There's no messaging between Baker and Monica at all between that time and the time Fabio searches on the internet on his phone on 4:35, when they are already there at the house, at the location. And the next message is not till 4:46, which is after the murder has taken place. And Fabio is driving away, the Porsche is driving away from the home, and Bella comes back. So look, there's no messaging between 3:36 and 4:46. There's no messaging between Monica and Baker for this whole 1 hour. No way she could have assisted during this key time when the significant events are occurring. And what do I mean by that? Why not communicate to him that Jessica has left? Yes, she texts Jessica, don't be late for your babysitting. But how does she know Jessica has left the house and is gone? She's supposed to be viewing everything and telling everybody. She never calls Jessica at the babysitter and say, have you gotten there? At 3:40, this is all from the prosecution's evidence, Monica texts Jessica, don't be late for babysitting. 6:41, Jessica replies, I won't. 3:41. 3:47, Jessica leaves the house. Now that's when Monica should have sent a Viber message or any message to Baker saying, Jessica left the house. Fabio's home alone. You know Monica's not there, and you know Bella has gone for her interview after school. No assist when we're told Monica has total control, can view the whole scene, is communicating with Baker. It's a small window. What is she doing to enable this to occur and occur successfully, this so-called co-conspirator? The IDMS, viewing home surveillance camera. 4 o'clock is the only time from the data records that Monica could have been watching the home during using that app. That's it. 4 o'clock. Nothing is happening at that time that has to be relayed to Baker. No messages at all from Monica to Baker anywhere near this time to say again that Jessica has left and the coast is clear. How would she know that? She'd see Jessica's car's not there, right? Okay. You cannot even view the cameras and communicate on the messaging app at the same time. In other words, they want you to believe she's looking at the app and she's walking out the door, she's messaging and she misses her. You can't do both. Either you're communicating or you're watching. You can't do both at the same time. And there's no evidence Baker ever downloaded or used that app on any of his devices. Let's get to the more crucial and interesting times. 4:18. Baker and Austin arrived at the Sementilli house. Now, Bella was gone, we know. Look at the previous app, the previous slide if you can, Jeremy. Bella was gone at school. Monica wasn't there. Jessica leaves at 3:47. Okay, go back to the next one. 4:18 is what, 20 minutes later? They arrive at the house. Why? Fabio's home alone. Monica's telling him everything. She's in on it. She's seeing everything. She knows everything. Why does it take them a half hour when they have this small window of time, which turns out to be 1 minute? No messaging between Monica and Baker to say the coast is clear. So Baker and Austin arrive at the house 33 minutes after Jessica leaves. Baker is coming from a Target parking lot that is less than 10 minutes away, and we're told that Austin's in the trunk, right? Or the back or somewhere. Someone said that. I think it was Mr. Christopher Austin. Even if he has to go back and pick him up, Baker lives 5 minutes away. Why does it take, when they know the house is vacant, except for Fabio, all of that time, 33 minutes before they arrived, from where we know Baker was in Target, and at what time? If Monica was orchestrating, and you can read as well as I, and letting him know everyone's movements, why would he wait so long to get to the house and narrow this small window to carry out the murder? Next. Thank you, Mr. Babbage. It means that when Baker and Oster arrive at the house, it takes them over 20 minutes to get into the house and kill Fabio. For some reason, the slide looked the same. 4:18, Baker and Austin arrive at the house. Okay? Got that straight. 4:35, Fabio is searching on his internet, so he must still be alive. It doesn't take a genius to figure that out. Which means, what are Baker and Austin doing between 4:18 and 4:35? This is a small window, remember. They've got to get it done. What are they doing? Are they ransacking the house? No. That's not what Austin says. He says the murder takes place, and then they ransack the house. And we know that's true because there's blood all over the house. Right? There's blood by the door, there's blood going up the stairs, there's blood in the bedroom. Nowhere near the safe. We'll get to that. So Fabio's home. They're at the house at 4:18. It takes them over 30 minutes to get into the house and kill Fabio. Now, it makes no sense for them to wait that long if this was all planned by Monica, and left the door open, and they were meant to be in and out 1, 2, 3. I'm telling you, the evidence is that front door was not open. Austin made that up, like he made up the thing about the passcode for the safe. If that door was open at 4:18, they go in the house, they go right through to the patio. Remember, Baker said he was trying to lure him out, whatever, that takes a little time. They go in, they kill him, they run through the house. How long does that take? 5, 10 minutes, they said. And they're out of there. They should have been out of there by 4:35. At 4:35, they're not even in there, because Fabio is searching the internet on his phone, and we know that. Again, ask yourself and ask the prosecution to explain, what about this small window that they had to get this done in when they're in the house for, what, almost 20 minutes before Fabio is even killed? And we know it has to be after 4:35 because that's when he's on the internet. So it didn't happen just right after that. All right, let's go on. Bella arriving so soon to the killer's leaving. The Porsche drives away from the home at 4:53. Bella approaches the home, and you can see this on those video cameras, right? The ones down at the corner. And when you see all the pictures of the cars coming up from Oakdale to turn on Queen Victoria, we saw all that. You know why they saw that so easy? Let me get back to that. Who told them the very night that her lover is trying to escape with her co-conspirator, Mr. Austin, is Monica Sementilli telling the police who arrived, oh, there's a homeowners association, and I think the name, gives the name Leslie something. They live right down the street. Maybe they have a camera. And lo and behold, they had a camera. And that was the first camera that showed all the scenes the prosecution used and the police to show when the cars came up and when the cars left. And that's why Monica was upset that they were looking at it, because she's the one who found it. She wanted to see it too. She told them about it. She told them that night. What? To help catch the people and apprehend the ones that she was conspiring to kill? All right. That's how we know the Porsche is driving away from the home, Baker and Austin, at 4:53, and Bella is approaching the home at 4:54 and finds the body and goes absolutely crazy, as you would expect. 1 minute after they're seen leaving. And I don't have to read this to say it, but I will. It's inconceivable that if Monica was orchestrating this murder, she would allow her own daughter to potentially arrive home when the killers are still there and risk her being murdered. She had every opportunity to delay Bella because she was in communication with her all afternoon, including a call at 4:24 after she knows the killers arrive at the house. Now, why do we say she had every opportunity to do that? Let's go to the next slide. This is Bella testifying in this case about her eyeglasses. Remember? Question, you picked them up, then you drove home, and there was about a minute after the murderers left. Yes, isn't that right, left? Your mom didn't try to delay you going home at all, did she? No. Let's go to the next slide. The next slide is going to show you the conversations between, we'll get to that, between Monica and Bella and the doctor. But let me ask you this, and this is what's bothered me for 8 years. Now the prosecution is going to tell you, because they have to, that Monica Sementilli did not care if her daughter Bella found her dead husband brutally stabbed to death. In fact, it's like she choreographed it to do so. That's how evil she is. That she would allow her own daughter to find the body when all she had to do when she spoke to her daughter, and we'll get to the messages that actually occurred, the phone calls, when she called up about her eyeglasses and said she was going to pick them up and she didn't know if her mother had to be there or not. And her mother said, no, I don't have to be there. Just pick them up and go home. I'm making patina or something. All she had to do was say, wait for me at the eyeglasses. I've got to be there. I spoke to Dr. Cohen. Or after you pick up the eyeglasses, let's meet at Starbucks. Tell me how the interview went. Remember, she had the interview for a job. I'll see you at Starbucks. Or meet me at Ralph's, please, and you can help me go shopping, and we'll finish up for dinner tonight. There are 100 different things she could have said to keep Bella away from the house where she knew this murder was going on right at that time. And she did not. Her own daughter. And because there's no way to argue differently that Monica did not have that power and ability and control to do that, they're going to tell you that she didn't give a shit. That she hated her daughter so much, or didn't care so much, or hated Fabio so much, or hated both of them so much, that she not only wanted him brutally killed, but she wanted her daughter to find the body first. And what was her explanation? So Monica could have an alibi. What, they really were going to think when Monica arrived 5 minutes later that she killed Fabio with the knife? With 2 knives and all those wounds? Of course not. She didn't need an alibi. She wasn't the murderer. So why? Why does she let her daughter find the body in this tight, that's the small window they're talking about, which means they knew ahead of time there was a small window. How many times did they tell you in the trial, in the opening, in the closing, they had a small window, they had to get this done? Bullshit. There was no small window. You know why? Because Monica did not have to show up when she did, and Bella did not have to show up when she did. All Monica had to do, again, is, and Bella called her, another misrepresentation by Miss Silverman. Monica called Bella to tell her to go to the eye doctor and pick up her glasses to delay her long enough so she would get home 1 minute after the murder. What if the damn car wouldn't start? What if they couldn't open the garage? Bella called Monica, the record show, and wanted to know if Monica had to be at the doctor for Bella to pick up the glasses. All Monica had to do is say, I'll meet you at the doctor's, pick up the glasses, let's go to Starbucks, let's get a bite, whatever, and get back home maybe 15 minutes after Baker leaves, when Baker can tell her, I've left. Because the hole in their story is that Monica, the conspirator, wants her husband dead. And that's all she cares about. She doesn't care about Bella. But she certainly cares about Baker and supposedly Austin, that she supposedly knows about. They're leaving the house and driving away in a Porsche that they know the color, they know the model, they know the license. What's the first thing the police are going to do, and I wish they'd done it sooner, apparently they didn't, is put out what they used to call an APB. Porsche, license plate, so-and-so, leaving the house, Victoria and Oakdale. Find it, search for it, look for it. Did they? I don't know. But that was what Monica had every right to believe they would have done. So she's giving them, in her plot, 1 minute to get away. Or, God forbid, her daughter walks in on the murder. And not only discovers it and calls 911, but likely is held or killed or whatever, because they can't have that happening. Monica totally controlled the time frames in this case. She had total control. And the problem is, the prosecution forgot that. They kept saying that Monica, I think it was Mitzi who said she took 5 different routes from Ralph's to the house. And the longest it took was 5 minutes. You remember that? So why did it take her 11 minutes to get from Ralph's? Because they saw when she left till she got home. Why? Well, we don't know. There was no camera on her. She could have been on the phone. She could have been smoking a cigarette. That's not the point. It should have taken her 30 minutes to get home with a good excuse. I went to see Bella. Bella gave her that excuse. She called her. She called her and Monica said, go pick up your glasses and go home. And that's only a few miles away. And it always bothered me that when Mitzi, Detective Roberts, I'm sorry I say Mitzi, known her a long time in this case, when Detective Roberts put up that whole elaborate exhibit demonstration, and it was well done with the cars moving and everything. They had her car, they had Baker's car, they had the Versa, they had everything on there, times and everything. The one car they didn't put up there was Bella. They didn't even track where Bella was. They just said Monica knew that Bella would go to the eye doctor and it would take a few minutes to get home, and she would get there a minute after, and that's plenty of time. It's a small window or whatever. Never realizing that Monica, conspirator Monica, murderer Monica, could have not only made sure Bella didn't discover the body, let both of them discover the body. Isn't that a little easier? That's a good alibi. At least you're with your daughter. And give your lover time to get the hell out of there. And all he did was drive around and find a place to park it, remember, and run back to get the Versa. My God. They're lucky they weren't caught right then and there if it was 1 minute. Why weren't they? She should have given him 30 minutes to do it. Nothing blocked that except for the fact that she was not in on it, and she didn't know. Can we go to the frame that shows the calls that are made from if you excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. A slide. That's why I have an assistant. I want you to look at what is already in evidence from the prosecution. It's not going to be on a slide, but it's in evidence. And it will show you at the time that the call came in from Bella to her mother, 4:36, 47, somewhere around that time. And it shows a call also between Monica and Dr. Cohen. Okay? And then a call back to Bella. It shows what a three-way call looks like, because the calls are overlapping. And remember when I told you that there's no record of three-way calls between Austin and Birdsong and Baker? Because you don't see the same thing that you're going to see on the exhibit that has those calls. Because those calls show exactly when Bella called, and it shows when Monica was speaking to the doctor about whether she had to be there for this, pick up the glasses, and it shows Monica and Bella talking again. Right in the middle of the murder. There is no stronger evidence that you're going to see in this case that Monica controlled the time of everything. You're hearing Jessica had to be gone, and Bella had to be gone, and this and that. She had control. And you're being told that with all that control, her plan was for Bella to show up 1 minute after the murders occurred, and gave Austin and Baker 1 minute to get out of the house and escape, when she could have done just the opposite. Just the opposite. You ask yourself that. You ask yourself why that occurred, and then I think you'll find by itself that not only destroys the claim that Monica was part of the conspiracy, it shows that it was just pure luck that her daughter wasn't killed at the time the murder took place, and that she had nothing to do with the time at all, except to let Baker know, as he knew every day, that Monica Sementilli was at Target or Ralph's and that Fabio was home alone and the girls were not there. And they could have met up, they talked later. Baker had enough on his mind, obviously. And look at the calls again and see the number of calls back and forth and see if there's any change on the 17th or the 22nd or whenever. They are messaging and texting each other every day like they did for a year. Now, let's get to the post-murder. The murder has taken place. Question about to Deborah Oback, because remember the motive is supposed to be life insurance. Question: had Monica ever at any point discussed with you life insurance for Luigi? No. Did she say anything else about university? She said, Luigi is going to be fine. Luigi is going to be fine. His dad takes care of him. He's going to be fine. That has been twisted and turned into Monica being obsessed with the insurance because she lets Luigi know that she knows about this separate policy. The prosecution also says that the daughters have been brainwashed and their heads are in the sand. The only people who are brainwashed are the prosecution witnesses who are now presuming Monica's guilt. So whose head is in the sand? Whose head is in the sand? Let's talk about the life insurance then for a minute. He had no knowledge prior to the death of Fabio that his company would create a new policy that would provide 6 months' worth of salary to the family. The calls about life insurance to law enforcement, 7 calls to Weller, were perfectly and completely normal. I'll get to the next one. We've gone over this. Listen to those calls and remember, they are combined with the issue of finding the killer. She is told it's not that easy to fill out the life insurance claim in any case when it's a murder. You've got to send it to Weller, you've got to send it to, they say send it to MetLife. MetLife says it's got to go to the police. Again, they want you to presume that she is guilty and all these things then look guilty. Your job is to presume she is innocent. And everything she does is consistent with an innocent victim of a brutal murder of her husband. Calling the police and asking them, what progress have you made? What's going on? Have you found them? And all the police are saying is, oh, we're making progress. Don't worry. We've got someone. We've almost got someone. I think we got someone. Did you get a new DVR? But don't worry. The place is safe. No knock burglars don't come around anymore. They changed the locks. And they know that the DVR was purchased by Fabio, not by her. Okay. Where is the missing voicemail to Detective Castro where Monica is asking about insurance? So Detective Castro gets on the stand and told a particularly harsh, shall we say, view of Monica's phone call to him about the insurance. Do you remember? That was the only reason he was put on the stand. They tape recorded everything, hours, hundreds of hours, every interview, every phone call. Where's that one? Well, guess we lost it. It's probably the same place where the tape recordings of what happened in the police car didn't work when they were arrested. Marco asked his attorney to draft a letter and offered it to Monica. Marco, remember, asked his attorney to draft a letter that Monica could use in trying to get the police and the insurance companies to move on this. Again, this is pre-arrest, post-arrest. Pre-arrest, everyone's on the same side. Post-arrest, when it's the first time they're being interviewed, suddenly everything she does turns to guilt. Ms. Obad, Deborah, was the one who tried to do anything to help this situation and tried to get the insurance information on her own. And they're saying, oh no, Obad was doing what Monica wanted to do. Does Deborah Obad strike you as the kind of woman who takes orders or does what she thinks is right? She took over. Yeah, she did. She was what we would call a balabusta, which means someone who's in everyone's business. But she had a good heart. She was trying to help. So she did help. And everything that she did, you are now told she only did because Monica told her to. Everyone wanted to see her get the life insurance. They had a life in front of them. They didn't know about the 6 weeks yet of salary. That was a few weeks later, which, by the way, went into effect for everybody, right, from Wella. All they knew was they had a mortgage, they had to pay, they had car payments, they had the university, and they had a husband who no longer was working because he was dead. They had insurance, they had medical care, all the things that they didn't know about for at least 2 weeks later that Wella was going to take care of. Let's go on. Monica forwards, I'm just reading this because it's quite eye-opening. Monica forwards Parshall's life insurance email not only to Baker, but also her sister Anna and Marco. Look at this exhibit. Now this exhibit shows that a few days before the email that the prosecution told you, who did she send the first email clearing herself to? Who did she send it to? Did she send it to Anna? Did she send it to her family? Did she send it to her children? Like, why would you send it to your children? No. She sent it to Baker. The only one she cared about was Baker, not her family. Well, the fact that she sent it to Baker, who is still her lover, and she has no reason to believe committed the murder because they wouldn't tell her for 4 months. Should have told her the first time and sat her down and said, you're having an affair with the guy who murdered your husband. What do you say about that? Tell us about it. Don't follow them and trail them to get tawdry photos and pictures for 4 months. But what's worse is they tried to tell you that she was so in love with her husband more than her family, her kids, that the only one she sent it to, at least the first one she sent it to, that she is going to be cleared of the insurance, which was bullshit, because they were arresting her as soon as she got here, was her lover. Sounds bad, doesn't it? Look at the first email that was sent on June 7, 2017. That is from Parshall to Monica. See, it says Monica, hotmail.com. Subject. Hi, I have a late meeting tomorrow with our burglary task force guys who have a good lead. If I can verify this info, boy, they got good at this ruse, didn't they? If I can verify this info, we can fire on a letter to MetLife to clear the way for the insurance payout. I may need info next week. We'll let you know ASAP. They do still want to take a look at your phone bill that list incoming phone calls for January. You can email it or fax it to 81837. She did. Okay? That message was forwarded to Anna and Marco, and they even met, I'll read the transcript, to celebrate. To celebrate. And then, well, here's the text. This was the testimony of Marco on the stand. And did she text you again a screenshot of another message from Detective Parshall saying that they're clear on the letter from life insurance secretary? Secretary is typing it up, and MetLife should have it by the end of the week. Next week, or the following. Yes, she did. Okay, when you were in New York, did the defendant show you these messages or this particular text message from Parshall? We spoke about it, or these emails from Parshall. In person? Yes, in person. And the testimony was they were all in New York with Anna celebrating the medical school graduation, I believe, of someone's daughter. Right? Medical graduation. So 2 days before they get the email, the final one from Parshall, which she does forward to Baker, she lets the family know that this is all coming. Why didn't they tell you that? It's right in the discovery that they provided to us. Why didn't they tell you that? Instead, you know how it was presented? Just have it replayed if you want to. They sent it to Baker and nobody else. And he was the first one she thought of, the last one before her children or anyone else. Yeah, after 2 days before, she let everyone know that it was coming. And of course it wasn't coming. And of course when they landed, a few days later, they arrested them all. After they interviewed Jessica and then told her, oh, by the way, your mom's been arrested. You better tell your family. Can we go on? Look at what her bank account was as the day of the murder. $63,000 and $43,000 in debt. Okay? Now, we know the calls to Detective Parshall, you've heard them. And then we got into the divorce versus death. Let's just move on. You've seen that chart, which supposedly says that she's going to get $1,500,000 if he's dead. The problem was they overvalued the stock options by a landslide. They didn't consider spousal support. They didn't know about Fabio's 6-month salary. Didn't put it in there. They had nothing about Fabio's income from Scissor Boy, the kickbacks he was getting, because Scissor Boy was working with Wella and the money was going into Monica's account. And what did they tell her after Fabio died? That's it. No more. He's dead. We're not gonna send you any more money. We can't. I mean, Fabio's dead. She lost all that income, which she knew was coming in every month. Still had the motive to kill him. There was not one credible or reliable calculation by the prosecution's financial expert. This was Jane No. Remember her, the nice lady who came up there? And remember she was saying, I was asked by the prosecution, I guess Eversbacher wasn't enough because Eversbacher didn't use alimony and misapplied the stock options to the day of death rather than the day that they were exercised. So she tries to say also that the stock options were worth, who knows what, 200, 300, 400,000, 453,000. She gave that figure on the day of death versus divorce. She could have gotten 453,000, which she says was conservative, a conservative figure. So I said, so this after we went through, remember, well, let's see, the stock options They're worth what they are when you get them, and then if they go up, they're worth more, and if they go down, they're worth less. Isn't that right? And she says yes. So this figure of 453, which you said was conservative, was way off. Yes. Okay. I said, that's okay. And she says, I realize that in retrospect. Okay. And the total amount that he would have, someone would have gained, would have been somewhere around 72,000. So she testifies on direct 493 and finally agrees in retrospect it would have been 72,000. Let's go on. Hold on that for 1 second. Let me remind you again, whether it was the options or the income or the other options from Canada or whatever she had coming, in those stock options, not once between the date of the death until this trial started even, did she try to give 1 penny of those options. This was the motive, or at least one of them, right, for killing him? Death versus divorce? Worth far more dead than alive? They wouldn't have even been exercised if Procter & Gamble hadn't written that letter. And yet, the prosecutor makes a big deal about Mr. Rubin. Ha, you didn't even check, did you? What's that got to do with what they were worth? Yeah, he should have checked earlier, and maybe they would have been sold and put in the estate earlier. And he was hired by Luigi. We didn't put up that death versus divorce chart. They did. Not us. They did. And then it was shown to be totally false. He was worth far more alive than dead, and they left out the third option, stay married. You get all the income, and he has life insurance, and they renegotiate every 3 years. What do you have to kill him for? What is her motive? 0. What is Baker's motive? I want her for myself. And I'm smart enough to know, especially after Christmas, when she's spending all this time with her family and not with him, that this is not going to last. But if he's dead, who does she have to turn to? She can't tell everyone she's been having an affair with him. She's fearful of that. My God, she brought this man into the family and into her life, and he ends up being a murderer? That's always possible, isn't it? That he gets caught. Or Fabio's dead, and let me tell you who I've been having an affair with, Robert Baker, child molester, polygamist, who knows what else. She's never going to end up with him if she has her way, and he knows that. Let's move on. We're almost done here. Big deal about Viber and WhatsApp. The records, no records show Monica deleted Viber on January 23rd, like they said. Their own data expert and Detective Roberts say they cannot determine when Monica deleted Viber. And then Baker and Monica started using WhatsApp, but Monica does not register for WhatsApp until 4 days later, not the night of the murder, as they tried to tell you. WhatsApp is a completely normal, popular messaging app. There's evidence Fabio was using it, WhatsApp, well before and as early as August 2015. And when Detective Roberts, who tried to say that she deleted it the very night or signed up the very night of the murder, he finally admits, I'm not quite certain if and when they actually did deactivate or remove Viber from their phones. And by the way, does it really matter that Baker keeps telling her, go on Viber, go on WhatsApp, do this, do that? He's the one who's covering up the affair as much as she is, and the last thing she wants is that affair to be known. The last thing she wants is that affair to come out. Let's move on. You know, we talked about burner phones. We put this up there because this is what the prosecution's expert says. It's something that you can use to hide your interactions with a spouse or a loved one. Probably more to deceive your spouse than commit a crime. But they're out there and they're used on a regular basis. The prosecution's expert said that. So when Baker says, here's a burner phone, use this burner phone to Monica or to Austin or to anyone else, yeah, that's what it is used for, to cover up affairs. Doesn't make it right. And she's nervous about it after the murder because someone's going to find out that she's having an affair with Robert Baker. And she's just as worried about it before the murder, that she's having an affair with Robert Baker. Everything, as I told you, that she did to hide this affair is consistent with someone who doesn't want it to be known. Two reasonable interpretations, one of which points to innocence, one of which points to guilt. You are required to adopt the one that points to innocence. Can we move on? Okay. Again, we're just trying to show that these arguments about Monica's interviews, and she totally was uncooperative, and was only trying to find out and figure out who murdered her husband, is what really happened here. Because they misrepresented everything else. She gave her password to her home security system right away. She told the police to go and recover the neighborhood surveillance footage. And she was honest about her route during the day of the murder. Right? She could have said, you know what, on my day home from the murder, if she wanted to cover up why it took 11 minutes when I told you she should have made it use 30 minutes so they could get away and Bella wouldn't walk in on him. She could have said, yeah, I stopped somewhere else. They didn't have video of her even leaving Ralph's. From the very beginning, she told them, I went to Target, I went to Ralph's, I came home at this time. It was 5 minutes after Fabio was killed. She controlled the time. She was honest. And they're using that as evidence of guilt. Let's move on. This we've talked about. They tried to say, well, Austin doesn't know much about the justice system, so he wanted an attorney, and another baloney. He knew well about it, well enough to say, yeah, I'll tell you what you want. Get me an attorney first and a deal. Let's move on. I want you to understand that the court, when the prosecution finishes their rebuttal, is going to provide you with the applicable law. And it's going to talk about conspiracy to commit murder and intent, all the things that Ms. Silverman went through for days. This is the law. That's fine, but you have to find the facts first before you apply the law. The law I want you to apply, the law that both sides should want you to apply, is proof beyond a reasonable doubt, circumstantial evidence, two reasonable interpretations, and you must corroborate the testimony of Austin. And that is, you can't just rely on, he said Monica, Baker said Monica did it. Baker said Monica knew. Baker said Monica was in on it. Baker said Monica wanted it dead. We had three-way calls, of which there is no evidence of any three-way calls, and all the rest I read to you. So remember that instruction. The judge gives you an instruction. It doesn't mean you find guilty or not guilty. It means you apply the instructions to the facts. And first you determine the facts. And if you determine that she did not knowingly intend to kill him, it's over. It's over. Let's go on. I learned a long time ago when I was in law school that Thomas Jefferson once said the cross-examination is the linchpin of democracy. And then got to get Alexander Hamilton in there since he had that hit play. The first duty of society is justice. So what does that mean to you? That means that what this trial is about is not just what they present, but what we present. And a witness may get up there and sound like the family's witnesses did for good reason, that she was the second coming of Attila the Hun, or Madame New, if you have your Vietnam history war, if you remember. As evil a woman as they could be. And then you find out that none of them were interviewed till after the police told them she killed Fabio. They told you she was covering up and deleting and doing all those things to cover up the murder, and we showed you they were doing it to cover up the affair. They told you that Austin was in on it and told you that Monica knew about it, and we told you in 20 different ways what a liar he was and why he lied. And whatever you can say about Baker, at least he didn't get a deal. We showed you what a controlling, manipulative, evil person he was. Boy, did she make a stupid mistake. Mistake that brought a man into the lives of her family that she will have to live for the rest of her life, and has already lived for 8 years. And she is guilty of a lot of things. Stupidity, duplicity, lying, adultery, all the things you saw up there. All the things. But she is not guilty of murder. Now, someone gave me this a long time ago, and I was a young attorney, right after I was in the DA's office, before a lot of you were born, probably. And I think what it shows, because there's no way to know what reasonable doubt means beyond a reasonable doubt, except that you are reasonable people. And if you have a doubt about her guilt, your vote is not guilty. Your job isn't here to find her innocent. I hope you do. I wish there was a verdict innocent. We don't think she had anything to do with it. That's tough in a case like this. I realize it. I realize that. She's here for a reason, yeah. She was having an affair with someone who murdered her husband, and she hid it, and she was arrested, and they threw her in a cell, and she said things to her lover, and did things for her lover that didn't sound great. But she did not commit, or orchestrate, or conspire to commit the murder of her husband. Now, I'm hoping that you find her proven not guilty. You can't write that down. I hope you believe that. If you feel she probably did not do it, your vote is still not guilty. She may not be guilty, your vote is still not guilty. Suspected, probably, possibly, likely, even highly likely. Now, those are the words of the person who prepared the chart, John McDonough. It doesn't say that in the jury instruction. It says an abiding conviction of the truth of the charge. Which means you're going to believe in your conviction that your verdict is correct. You're going to believe in that the rest of your life. If someone came up to you a month or a year or 2 years from now and said, you know, Austin finally came out and admitted that she had nothing to do with it, would you be surprised? Because if you wouldn't be surprised, then you're not convinced beyond a reasonable doubt. You've got to be way up there. And I just read you what that says. And it dovetails with that, and it dovetails with presumed innocent and 2 reasonable interpretations of the evidence. You are required to adopt the one that points to innocence and reject the one that points to guilt. Now, she has been sitting there for 9 weeks, that she has been sitting in a prison for 8 years. The only one who throughout this case, who was charged, that has consistently said, I am not guilty. No deals, no nothing. They all made deals. They all pled. No deals, no nothing. 8 years. She has suffered for her choices, and they were horrible. But she's not guilty of first-degree murder, of destroying a family, of putting her daughter in danger of being murdered when she could have controlled the whole thing. So I hope, yes, that you find her in your mind innocent, because I think she's been proven innocent. But you don't have to even get close to that. All you have to find is the prosecution has not proven her guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And then come out there and you say the words that she has been waiting to hear for 8 years. Not Monica, you're a great person. Not Monica, you did the right thing. Not Monica, you were a great wife. Not Monica, you were a great mother. Not Monica, you were even a great person. But Monica, you're not a murderer. And they have not proven you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. She's waiting to hear to say the words she's been waiting. She wants you to say the words she's been waiting to hear for 8 years. Monica Sementilli, you are not guilty of these charges. And we hope and expect you to return that verdict, however long or however short it takes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will be in recess for lunch until 1:30. The admonition applies. Have a good lunch.